Don't call it a cartoon. War, slavery, revolution, resistance, genetic engineering, treason, guerrilla warfare, terraforming, genocide, biological weapons. Does that sound like a cartoon to you? No, it wasn't a cartoon. It was a groundbreaking animated series and a successful line of action figures drawing on some heavy science fiction themes and asking questions about right and wrong, good and evil, and the consequences of decisions we make as both individuals and as a collective species. Hi, I'm Dan Larson, and this is the History of Exo Squad. The word cartoon suggests a show about the misadventures of boneless, rubber-faced talking animals and plots that feature the frequent application of non-lethal dynamite or TNT into their trousers, mouths, or sometimes both simultaneously. Animated series, on the other hand, refers to a more structured, deliberately paced story with a more episodic presentation featuring a developing narrative, a specific story to be told in a specific order. It's not really hard to tell them apart, and tragic when one is mistaken for the other. Exo Squad began as an animated series and toy line in 1993 with 13 episodes produced by the animation wing of Universal Studios and action figures and vehicles produced by Playmates Toys, two companies that were at the top of their game in their respective industries. It was conceived of and executive produced by Jeff Segal and co-executive produced by Will Mineo, produced by Dennis Woodyard, written by Mark and Mike Edens, and directed by Graham Morris. These 5 creators worked on, let's just say, all the shows. G.I. Joe, Gem, Ghostbusters, Captain Planet, X-Men, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Bucky O'Hare, Batman, Cops, Shirt Tales, GoBots, Bionic 6, Galtar, Robotics, Spider-Man, His Amazing Friends, Super Friends. You know, now that I think of it, they're a big part of why this show exists as well. What would we even be talking about? The opening theme attempts to simplify the concept of the series, but overlooks a lot and attempts to shift blame and responsibility. Quote, "It was a golden age for all mankind. Using the incredible exoskeletons called E-frames, we had successfully terraformed Venus and Mars, and were now poised to move on to the outer planets. Suddenly it all ended. We were pressed into a nightmarish war on a scale previously unimagined. We were attacked by our own creations, the Neo-Sapiens, a race of artificially created humans. Led by Phaeton, they had seized control of Venus, Earth, and Mars. This is Lieutenant J.T. Marsh, member of the Exo Fleet, leader of a small band of E-frame pilots dedicated to freeing humanity from Neo-Sapien rule. We are the Exo Squad." The golden age of mankind refers to the 22nd century when Earthlings want to terraform the outer planets in the solar system, so they create heavy machinery external bodysuits or E-frames, as well as a new species called Neo-Sapiens to act as manual labor. The Neo-Sapiens are designed to be stronger and more tolerant of the extreme conditions on Mars and Venus, but they're also intended to be a subservient species to humans. As if that wasn't bad enough, Earth has been exporting its most dangerous humans, criminals, and prisoners to the outer limits of the solar system to work in penal colonies, mining materials to build interplanetary spacecraft. Where's the gold again? The show, the first episode, begins 50 years after the first revolt by the Neo-Sapiens against their human masters. To say there are tensions between the two would be an understatement. When the criminal elements of the Outer Realms begin to organize and attack government ships, the Earth Congress sends their entire fleet to stomp it out once and for all, leaving the homeworlds of Earth, Venus, and Mars unprotected, inspiring the leader of the Neo-Sapiens, Phaeton, to begin his revolution. That's where the series starts. Spoiler alert for the ending of the first episode, the first season, the entire series. No one ever truly wins a war. Despite repeated claims to have done so, there is no end, and certainly no end without immeasurably terrible cost to both sides. Exo Squad isn't about what crazy scheme will Cobra come up with to stymie the Joes this week. Or how is Megatron going to blame his failures on Starscream this time? Each episode matters. Each episode is important. Decisions have consequences. Actions have motivations. Good and evil are not what someone is, but what they do and which side of the conflict you are on. When a spaceship or an E-frame blows up, you don't get an obligatory shot of an escape pod or a parachute to let you know that everyone survived. A living creature, hundreds, maybe thousands, just died. There is lasting impact to everything that happens. Animation and writing, especially for 1993, is on par with anything else that was being produced and at times rivals some of the best anime. Comparisons to Gundam and Macross and Yamato are all appropriate. Parallels to World War II are not accidental. The war itself, the fallout, the resistance on both sides. Exo Squad is not a cartoon about smashing your toys together and then going outside to play ball. But there were toys. Smashing them together or not was up to you. In 1993, Playmates released multiple waves of 2 categories of E-frames, general purpose and the larger light attack. Each E-frame came with a figure and was loaded with play features, launching missiles, spring-activated claws, pivoting wings, pivoting cockpit and mobile armor panels, and every vehicle came with decals that could be applied at the user's discretion to indicate damage to the E-frame due to being deployed into combat. Each E-frame and pilot was highly detailed with multiple points of articulation for both. The figures, even though they were just barely over 3 inches tall, had nearly the same amount of articulation as G.I. Joe figures, who I guess were just barely over 3 inches tall. The exosuit-style E-frames each had working knee and elbow joints, hydraulic cylinders with moving pistons, cyberjack connections that plugged into the figures, removable power cell cartridges, and each one was themed to the pilot to perform the various duties specific to that pilot and their job specializations. Aerial attack, field communications, stealth, amphibious, police, transport, and repair. As the animated series and the toy line progressed, Playmates would incorporate other scales of toys to represent the different aspects of the war and different ways to engage in the Exo Squad experience. Command bases with even smaller figures and E-frames, and full-size space battleships with even smaller micro-sized E-frames. What might have been if they had lasted just one more year? Things got weird near the end. Anyone could look at Exo Squad and make a visual connection between their mech designs and something like Robotech, but it's another step to actually solicit the license and roll actual Robotech branding and toys into the line. But that's what they did. Veritech, Zentradi Battle Pods. Where was this coming from and why? The first 13-episode season was renewed for a second full season consisting of 39 episodes, but the economics of the toy line and TV production were changing. Endless war tends to wear down its viewer. Ratings started to decline and the show was moved to time slots that were more and more deliberately designed to reduce its ratings to the point of intended cancellation. A third series was begun, but only 1 episode was produced. The entire thing boils down to a cliffhanger with a newly invading alien army that could bring together the 2 warring factions of humans and Neo-Sapiens that viewers had been following for 2 seasons. There are theories that suggest this new alien army was intended to be associated with the Robotech franchise and that we were going to see an unprecedented animated series crossover. There are other, more plausible theories that suggest that Playmates found a way to use a previously existing license to juice the sales of the Exo Squad brand and just started selling Robotech stuff with no other motive than ringing the registers. No one knows for sure. The only certainty is that the end was inevitable. Exo Squad was big enough to get a board game and comic book released in 1994 and a Sega Genesis game released in 1995. The series was collected on VHS just after it ended and has made appearances on various video-on-demand services like Hulu and Zune. The first season was released on DVD in 2009, and don't tell anyone, but several episodes are available here on YouTube if you know where to look. That's where the search bar is, right? For the audience that founded the animated series and toy line were milestone achievements for both art forms. It was an anime-inspired series that drew inspiration from and paid homage to all of the great mech suits and space wars that came before it, showing viewers a kind of realism that was not typically expected in Western animation. Did I mention that it was inspired? Thanks for watching. Please hit like, hit subscribe if you aren't already a subscriber. Thank you to those who are. Share this video. Check out our Patreon, patreon.com/toygalaxy if you're in the position to help the channel grow. You know, the only bad thing I can say about Exo Squad is that it was canceled on a cliffhanger the way it was, and that it is clearly a future extrapolated out of the 1990s. There are so many lines carved into so many mullets, it certainly wasn't a golden age of haircuts.
You got there.
Got there, it's hot.